I'm sure you've all experienced situations like this when all of a sudden, just in a second, everything changes. And for me, that was drinking a glass of water. Not that one, but it was a glass of water. And it was dirty water. And, it's one of the simplest things in life, a glass of water, but it really changed my life. So it was 1998. I was 19 years old, and I found myself in India. This was a massive culture shock for me. Occasionally went to Europe, but India was a real shock to the system culturally and in many, many ways. But I was teaching in a school, and it was in Kashmir, and it was the 50th year of independence. So there was a lot of activity, quite scary. But aside from that, I was teaching in a community school, and I was finding it really, really hard to teach because the class just kept changing. So there was no consistency in the students, and predominantly within the girls in the class. And I found this was just crazy. Why was this happening? And I found out that it was due to preventable water-related illness. And then actually, that was reinforced a couple of weeks later when I unwittingly drank some dirty water myself. So I was eating very, very hot Kashmiri food and sort of grabbed the nearest glass. And I got very well acquainted with that toilet and the sink that has no plumbing. It's pretty messy. But also that stayed with me for a number of years afterwards. Almost every month, a bit like a period, I would need to know where all of the toilets were. So anyone needs to know about toilets in Bristol, I know quite well. And it really, for me, it was a regular reminder of what 2 billion people all over the world suffer on a daily basis. And I promised to do something about it. Access to water really is it's a human right, and it's the most basic building block to any sort of development. Once you've got water, then all other types of development can flourish. And my question really was, why is something that is preventable not being prevented? And after sort of 12 years in the industry, and not wanting to sort of simplify a very complex issue, my argument is that a lot of it's down to creativity. So imagine a world that's more equal than the world we live in today, where 900 children don't die needlessly from something that's preventable every day, where parents don't live with guilt, shame, anger at their children having died due to something that is preventable, where children like these can go to school every day, where they can lead flourishing lives, where they can learn, and maybe even they can be the ones who help us combat climate change and prevent wars and, invent some amazing technology. At the moment, by the end of this talk, another 12 children will have died from water-related illness. So going on that sort of creative theme, I think, one of the big obstacles is big business thinking. So big business does lots of things really, really well. Don't get me wrong. But, they're really good at scaling up and rolling out. But they're really not very good at being nimble, at thinking creatively, adapting, and least of all, customizing. And one size really doesn't fit all, especially in the cases that we work in. Many of the big solutions to water fail. The world is full of situations like that, and there's a trail. The hit and run development sort of really does leave a trail of depleted aquifers and hand pumps that don't work, and disappointed donors as well, and broken dreams, I suppose. So really big thinking doesn't really work here in a lot of these situations, and creativity and innovation doesn't really come from the centre of business. It tends to lie at the edges. So the second obstacle I find is also that we focus a lot on technology being the solution, and invention as such, and not enough on innovation in water development. So and what I mean by that is the invention as well as with execution together as a solution. So we've learnt that on the job ourselves. So we've used numerous technological inventions. This is an RO machine in conjunction with a number of other filters, which we were using to get fluoride out of water. And we've also used UV to get general viruses out of water. And they do work sometimes. But it's very important to consider the overall approach. So it's not just about the technology, it's about how you implement that technology for a community. And we sort of co-create with the community the appropriate solution. And that's driven by the community, it's owned by the community, it's maintained by the community, and actually in some cases, it's even built by the community. And no programme can be successful and certainly not sustainable without the community being fully on board, engaged, and part of that programme. And the other thing is, every community is different. And not only every community, but every single village as well. So the geographical placement of that village, the water assets and everything else. The other innovation is the business model. So sort of how you're actually going to raise the funds to make this happen, to give people safe water. So traditional thinking would say that in order for this to happen, I'd have to have a degree in business, economics, international development, maybe an MBA, but there's very little sort of new thinking in all of that. So I found myself at the age of 25 with a fine art degree and a couple of years working for a small training company and really almost 100% perfectly not qualified to start a water charity. So that's what I did. What I did have on the plus side was creativity and a lot of passion for finding a solution and finding a way through. So the first thing that I needed was money. And so I created a new retail drinks category, taking on the big boys in many senses. Frank, as in open, honest and safe talking, developed this bottled water brand in an attempt to reclaim some of that profit really and send it to and use it to fund safe water programs in India and Nepal. It's quite a controversial industry, and so I really wanted to use it as a vehicle to talk to people about the world water issues and the fact that in the UK we have so much choice when it comes to drinking water. We have really good tap water, and if you don't like it, then you can put a filter on your tap. And there are so many solutions. You don't really need to drink bottled water. It's a luxury. So let's use that luxury for people who really feel they need to. Try to talk to them about it, and then sort of divert those funds to something more important. So I did this with there were a team of 3 of us, volunteers, working from under the stairs in my house. The first pallet arrived and it's like a metre cubed, a tonne, literally, and sort of cycled around Bristol delivering that first pallet, case by case. But it was a great time. Ultimately, our drive in the UK is to move people to more green solutions, more sustainable drinking water solutions. So have like a sort of a whole range of options. And part of this, for when this sort of really started, was 2010. We launched a Turn Me On campaign in Bristol. We've got like loads of really amazing old drinking water fountains, and we were campaigning to get the council and the local water utilities to bring back these public water fountains to create an infrastructure so that people can refill on the go. And also in 2010, we created another new business model and innovated within the festival sector, providing sort of refills for people who are at a festival for a duration, long weekend. You get free refills all weekend if you buy one of our bottles, or if you bring your own bottle, you can have a wristband. And the water's filtered and chilled, it's really lovely. And we get to talk to people as well about our work and things. And obviously it funds safe water programmes, it cuts down on waste at festivals, and it keeps people hydrated as well, which has quite a good influence on behaviour across site. So, there are there's a load of us out there, these kind of like small, an army of small change agents who are really sort of cutting our own path and innovating and influencing for maximum impact. And what we can do effectively is sort of create a ripple. We can start things. We don't do the rollouts and all that kind of stuff, but we can be the sort of the spark, the innovators that sort of start new movements. And one of our key strengths is working with people. So we don't do this on our own. It's all about collaborating, whether that's our partners in India who we work with to implement the work, or even the communities actually out there. It often takes one or two people within the community who really wants to make a difference in their own space. And together, by doing this, we can really multiply and have incredible leverage and extraordinary change. So after year 1, we funded 1 project. Year 2 is about 3 projects, and now we've funded, so year 12, 300 projects for 330,000 people across India, and just started work in Nepal as well. So finally, I just want to give you an example of somebody I met on a recent trip to India just back in December. This is Sunny, and she's a member of the Community Action Group. She was absolutely critical. Women do tend to be, and she really brought her community together around water and finding a solution for her family and her wider community. So we work very closely with the whole community to map with what they currently have, and do lots of hydrogeological mapping to find out what the best solution is for them. And that's a decision made by the whole community. They actually decided on a gravity-fed water system, suited their landscape, and they actually built it themselves as a community. So Sunny told me, I was a bit shocked about this, that the women and the girls used to spend about half a day collecting their water. That wasn't a shock to me, that's the way that it is. But they would go up the valley to collect their water. And they would carry this much water on their heads. I don't know if you can see the lady at the front, but she's got four containers of water. That's about 40 kilos. That's twice the amount of your baggage allowance for an international holiday. I just can't imagine that. So, she was telling us all about the injuries they've suffered, because obviously they're coming back down the mountains, slipping on paths, and you can see some of those tins are pretty smashed. So lots of injuries like that, and then also the compacting of the spine that happens just for sort of carrying out water. And there were a lot of small girls doing it as well. And then when they get home, they filter the water using cloths, and if they've got enough wood, then they use wood to boil it. But if they don't have that, then if they don't have the wood, then they often are suffering sort of diarrhoea and other water-related illness. But now they have water just a couple of metres from their home, so they've got a number of these standpipes where the water's gravity-fed down through the system across the village, positioned according to them. The village decides where it all goes. And the main thing that they're reporting is time. They have time. They're not spending all this time collecting water and cleaning it and doing all the other household chores before they can go out and work. So they've got more time, which means they've got more money. So with more money, they're also not going to see the doctor and buy medication to combat side effects. And with the money, they can buy better crops, and these crops are much more productive and a much greater variety as well. So that's helping to combat the malnutrition that they were suffering previously. And also her 2 children now go to school. partly because she can now buy them their uniform and their books, and she can pay for their transport to get them there, but also because she doesn't need them to help her to carry enough water for them each day. And actually, we've done quite a lot of advocacy on this type of project and its variations, and the government are showing a real interest in. We think they're probably going to agree to help us fund some quite a large number of more projects for villages where this suits. So, we work really creatively with our partners. We develop and sort of demonstrate the models and approaches for really the most marginalised communities. So we're working with lots of tribal people. We also have Slum Project, but we're predominantly working with tribal people. And then we research and develop the further variations of that model, because it's never the same. Every village is different. So researching all of those different ways of working, and we do that through what's called adaptive programme management. And then we advocate these as open source models to all the other sort of bigger agencies and to the government as well. So just in summary, I believe that we need more creative approaches to charity and to the development as a whole, and fundraising as well. And I encourage the creative thinkers out there and the entrepreneurs to get involved in our sector. We really need you. And you guys, if you can support small organisations that are creative, every purchase you make, every bit of time that you give, or every donation that you make, is a vote, basically. And together, I think we can make real, lasting change. So, thank you.